Welcome to Book Nook, the coziest place for book lovers to chat about the stories that shape us. I'm Barbara.
And I'm Marie. And each episode, we dive into the books we love, the ones that challenge us, and everything in between. Ready to talk books? It's time to turn the page.
Hello, Mary.
How are
Hey, Barbara.
you? I'm good. What about you?
I'm fantastic. I've just been to the ice cream boat here in York. It's a fantastic concept. They sell ice cream on a boat and they change location. I think every couple of days. The ice cream is good. These people are so kind. And I can just ice cream like on a boat every day of the week. That's great.
What's your favorite flavor there?
Okay, I always have the same thing. Pistachio and hazelnut.
I
What's
love
yours?
pistachio. I love pistachio. I think it's in the top three, like my favorite flavors.
Oh.
Top three with coconut.
Oh
And,
yeah, I love coconut too.
and then, I don't know, maybe mango can be good sometimes. Like
But
fruits.
you're super lucky because in Montreal they have the best ice cream.
I know you recommended one of the places that is really close to my place
Mm.
and followed your recommendation on the ube. Is that the name?
Yeah.
Ube flavor. It reminded me of taro, whatever,
Yeah.
however you say it. But I drink, when I drink bubble tea, I usually order taro and similar flavor.
Now ube is super famous. Like I don't know in Montreal, but here they started like replacing matcha with ube. So I had an ube
Oh,
latte last week. Mm.
okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
I'm
so
sure
it's
it's
the
good
new
as a latte.
flavor.
No, I'm sure it's good as a latte because as an ice cream, it's just a it's funny because the ice cream is so, like, it's this purple color. Uh, so it looks, I don't know,
It
interesting.
looks unnatural, but it is.
That's what I meant.
So we're not here to talk about ice cream, or not just about ice cream. We're talking about a dystopian classic today, The Giver by Lois Lowry. I think it was written 30 years ago, if I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken.
exactly 30 years ago. Yeah. And just a reminder that we picked this book because we saw it in a list of recommendations from Taylor
Yeah.
Swift.
Yeah.
Apparently it's a book. So it's a book for teenagers, maybe not children, but teenagers. And I think it can be part of school programs and read at school. And she has said that it has inspired her when she read it as a teen. So I don't know if she read it at school or on the side, but it's famous for that reason.
Actually, it's a book for teenagers, but I think when surely we'll talk about this like in more detail after. But it's great to read this book as an adult because we have a background and there's a political side of it too. So super interesting. But maybe before we dive like into the
Yeah.
story, we can talk a bit about the author.
Yeah. So Lois Lowry, she's an American author. She was born in 1937 and she began publishing books in the late 70s. She has written, I have an issue with this verb. She has written over 40 books for children and
Wow. I didn't know that.
young adults. Yeah, that's a lot of books. And she has won twice a Newbery Medal. I think it's a prize for children and YA novels.
Okay.
So one of the prize she received for The Giver that we're going to talk about today, she published it in 1994. Well, so actually it's 31 years that it has been out. And another book that received the prize was The Stars, and it was released in 1990. She is known for the very serious topics that she writes about. Obviously, we're going to talk about this because The Giver is a really good example of a book on memory, loss. Not going to spoil on other topics that we're going to talk about, but there's always this idea of conveying a message of hope. It's not just darkness, which is a good thing because she's writing books for young people. So hopefully
Yeah.
she doesn't
And
depress.
we need young people to be optimistic about the future.
Yeah.
And even if we live in sometimes a dark world, we have to be honest. when you're young, it's important you have this willingness to change things and be hopeful. So not just darkness.
Yeah. And maybe we can give a short summary together, just without spoilers. We'll see afterwards if we talk about the ending, because we
Yeah,
have a lot
I'm
of
still
things.
not sure I know what happened at the end.
We're going to talk about the ending because we did not read it the same way. But before that, maybe we can give a short summary without giving out too much details. So the story is about a kid named Jonas. He lives in this perfect society with no pain, no war, but also no choices. Every individual has to be the same, or at least they're put into boxes. And so he's 12. And when you're 12 in this community, you are given an assignment for your life, basically a job. And he is chosen to be the receiver of memory. At that point, we don't know what that means. This opens up a new life for him because he starts to uncover the truth behind this peaceful society that has been created and this facade. Maybe you can tell us, Barbara, what this role of receiver of memory means.
So basically, the giver is the person in the community who has all the memories of the current community, but also the history, what happened in the past. And the past is actually all current society, from what I understood.
Yeah.
And he gives all his memories to the receiver of memory. So Jonas is that person. And I think in the community, is the most important person, and he has like extra rights and everything. So he has a new role, is a person of importance, and yeah, he's like the guardian of history.
Yeah. And we understand that they don't have the community. They don't have access to a lot of knowledge. They don't have books, or if they do, very few books. And that's why this idea of memories slash information is so important, and only one person is given everything. This person, he's like a library, I guess. He's like this
Yeah.
hard drive.
Oh, yeah. Actually,
It was so powerful so Jonas, when he's chosen as the receiver of memory, he goes to this place where he's meeting the giver. So the person who's going to give him, as you said, Barbara, the memories from society. And he arrives in this room full of books and he's amazed. He's like, wow, I've never seen so many books. And it's like, this is such a beautiful image because books, they do hold this role of being our memories, our collective memories. So the fact that he has access to that because he's the receiver of memories, he's the one holding all the memories, it makes just a lot of sense.
yeah.
So, but as we said, new role opens up this new world for him, new view on his own society and the rules that they all have to follow.
Hmm.
And obviously, not everything is going to go according to plan because he's
Yeah.
going to maybe rebel. We'll see how much details we give.
Yeah,
But I think,
it's often the same like synopsis in science
yeah,
fiction.
yeah, especially for dystopias like
Yeah.
this, it's very severe rules or societies that are, yeah,
Yeah,
just,
everything's about control.
yeah.
Mm.
And so obviously you have the chosen one.
Mm.
I think that's a very common element in such books. The chosen one will be putting in question everything that everyone thinks is normal. What did you like about the book?
Okay, I liked many things and different things. So the story in itself, because I really like dystopias and a theme that's important for me. And I think, okay, I'm starting to be a little bit philosophical and personal,
We have
but
to with this book.
uh, it's thanks to books and these kinds of books specifically in my life that I had like the courage to try different things and have a different life from what I knew. Because like I grew up in a village. I'm the first of my family to have finished high school. No, I'm not even talking about university. I'm talking high school. I grew up on a farm. Books like allowed me to have a different life. And because I saw people being different in books, I was inspired and I had like the courage to do something different. So I love dystopia because I think about my own childhood in a way. Of course, I didn't grow up in a dictatorship or anything like that. But yeah, so I like the setting, like many teens, because we see that when you have education, and when you have access to memories, history, and I always say history is so important because you need to learn from the past to not repeat the same mistakes. Yeah, I love the background, the way Jonas started to question things and try to do something to give the people he loved memories to, because as the maybe we can say to the listeners that when you become the giver and the receiver of memory, when you become the person in charge of the memories, you can share memories with other person around you. But you normally you don't do that, but you can do that. And yeah, it tries to like give the good feelings and the memories of happiness, the experiences, the colors of life, because in this community, they see everything in black and white to the people around him. So I love this theme. And yeah, the questioning of like humanity, and I keep talking, sorry, but the thing I really like too is that it's not black and white, because even if they have rules and it's like a very controlled society, they have, no one's angry. Everyone has access to food. Everyone has access to basic education. They know what they're going to do with their lives.
They all have a family. They
Yeah,
all, the
they're
old,
not alone.
the
Mm,
elder people are taken
mm,
care of
yeah,
by society. I
yeah.
agree. And I want to go back. Sorry, just want to go back to what you said about you relating with this book and that kind of books because you grew up in a certain environment and then you decided to move to a different city, study at university and so on. The interesting thing in this book is everyone is the same. So they created a society where there is a sameness. I think that's how
Mm,
they say it. Sameness. So everyone has the same life. Every family is the same. Everyone lives in the same type of
mm,
house. For example, families always have two children,
mm,
one boy, one girl. They can't have more than that, or it's everyone has to be the same.
mm.
And I think Jonas, and that's probably a feeling that teenagers feel even in real
Yeah,
life. This idea of you want to be the same, like you don't want to be different because if you're different,
it's hard.
then
Mm,
you can be judged for that or mocked for it. And in that particular society, it's so important to be like everyone because, well, they have to. Otherwise, they're punished
mm,
if they don't follow the rules. So, yeah, I think that's this idea of being the same, whereas at the end, Jonas wants to be different or change
yeah.
the
And
society he lives in.
when you think about it, I had this conversation last week, so that's funny because I think when you have a role in society from the time you're born, it's sometimes easier for you because you don't ask question. You don't lie in bed at night thinking what I'm going to do with my life.
Hmm.
You have a path and you
Yeah.
follow it, and it's normal for you. And I don't say it's better. I don't say it's good. I say it's that way in many societies still
Yeah.
today. And in the book, they have a role. It's chosen for them, like when they reach 12.
Yeah. They don't have a choice.
Yeah. So
And
when you don't ask question about anything, you just go on with your life.
yeah, this idea of choice is very important. As you said, they don't choose their work. They don't choose their names.
Mm.
They don't choose
Your
which
partner.
kid, their partner. They don't choose their kids. Like they have women giving birth
Mm.
to babies for the community, and then babies are assigned to couples. And I have this quote. Sorry, I always have quotes. I have this quote about choice, and I don't remember who says it, but I feel like might be Jonas. It doesn't reflect his character building, but still. He says, we really have to protect people from wrong choices.
Mm.
And it's interesting because in this society, they don't have any choice to as to how to live their life. And that leads to a very calm society where there is no conflict, or because anyway, people who don't follow the rules are just punished.
Mm.
They are released. We're going to talk about the releasing part maybe later. They're released from the society. So they're no longer part of society if they keep not following the rules. And yeah, it's, as you said, it's not black or white. It's not having a choice can lead to a very peaceful life, but is it worth it if you don't see colors, if you don't know what snow is, if you don't know what the I was shocked. Sunshine. When the giver gives him the memory of sunshine, I was like, what the fuck? So they don't have that? So it's, basic elements from nature, from history, ideas. They don't have that.
Yeah, and I think, it's the old debate we often have in society about good and bad. And we want to eradicate bad, but I believe, controversial opinion, baby, that you can have good if you don't have bad. Because if you don't have bad, you cannot recognize good.
I
So
agree.
it's
Oh my God.
because I'm going to talk about the weather. Sorry, but it's because we have in the UK month of rain, or in Canada month of snow and cold, that we appreciate summer so much because the sun is shining. We have like the feel, the sensation of sun and warm on our skins, and we're happy.
I
But if we
100%
had
agree.
sunshine like all year, it's not the same feeling at all.
100%. I keep saying this to my friends who complain about the weather. I'm like, yeah, but that's, if you had summer all year long, it would not be the same. You would not
Yeah,
enjoy it the same. So 100% agree.
it's the same
It's
for
very
feeling.
philosophical, but it's so true.
Yeah, it talks it because and it's another subject in the book, because memories are also memories of grief or pain, war, loss, and it's hard for him, especially because he's still young. And they had a problem 10 years before with the other reserver, which was chosen 10 years before Jonas, because she couldn't like take it, the pain. But once again, and it's interesting, like the realization Jonas has in the book, whereas this balance, because yes, it's hard, the pain, the grief, but you see the colors and you experience love
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah. That's
having a
beautiful.
family and grandparents, and this is a balance.
Yeah. I agree. And it's so beautiful when he has the memory of love.
Yeah,
I think it's a memory of, I assumed it was a Christmas
yeah.
evening with grandparents and kids, and that was so beautiful. But when I started reading the book, I was thinking, wow, okay, where is this leading? Because, well, obviously from the start, you understand that it's not a very good example of society because people are, they're watched all the time. You have the speakers with announcement like, oh, you did this. Like it's very big brother watching you. So obviously I'm not, in favor of this, but you also have, at least that's how you see it at the beginning. It's, wow, this is very peaceful. People talk about their feelings, and they have, well, obviously, as we said, their society is based on rules. And so they have very organized days, always the same. They start their day, family meal, talking about their dreams, debating on what it means. And same in the evening when they have dinner, it's okay. So how did you feel today? Whatever. And at first I was thinking, wow, talking about feelings with people, trying to understand them. That's interesting.
Yeah,
But then later in the book, you understand that it's fake. It's not because people talk about their feelings that they actually,
yeah. Actually, they
experience.
don't even really feel, because they don't know like how an emotion is, like the feeling you have, because they don't have deep emotions. And
Yeah.
that's super interesting what you said about like sharing your feelings and your dreams, because they keep insisting on the precision of language. So
Yeah.
you use the correct word to express what you're feeling. So they
Yeah.
talk about anxiety, fear, etc. But they also talk about release. And we learn very soon what release is. And it's not release, really.
Well,
It's
I mean,
something, it's a release, but it's
yeah, because
something else. It's not the correct word.
when at first they say that both, well, people can be released because they kept breaking the rules. So their punishment is like, okay, we no longer want you in our society. But then when you understand that both the elderly and babies can be released, then you're like, okay, something's
Yeah,
wrong. Like, you
it's
can't just release
bizarre.
someone in nature, like a baby in nature. Like, probably they're released in a very terminal way. So, you know, I mean, we're smiling, but it's not funny. But
Yeah, not at all, actually.
very morbid. But the interesting thing about the precision of language is there is this scene where Jonas, so he understood what love is because he received a memory. And then he asks his parents, do you love me?
Yeah.
And then his mom is like, Jonas, be precise. Like, love is like such a vague idea. You have to ask me, do I value you? Do
Yeah.
I enjoy you or something? I don't remember how she phrases
Yeah,
it,
I
but
think, do I enjoy you? Am I
am I proud of you?
proud of your
Yeah.
actions?
Yeah. And then you see like their family is not at all based on love, and that's sad. Even though I do think that they still, as they say, value each other, obviously, and they
Yeah.
care about each other, but they don't go, they don't have this deeper level of, being together because they love one another. And I watched an interview from the author, Lois Lowry. It's very interesting to hear why she wrote the book, because at the beginning I thought she wrote it in a very political mindset, or at least, when you write a dystopia and you write about a society that has such rules and individuals are not given the liberty to do whatever they want, then you obviously think, political criticism. But she says that she wrote it more because of the memory aspect of it, like the value of memories,
That's interesting.
how they hold power over someone. She wrote it when her dad was getting older and starting to forget things that happened to him when he was younger. For example, I think it was Second World War. He was a soldier during Second World War, and he forgot some memories from that time. And so this idea of, are we better off forgetting pain? And because in her case, like in her dad's case, he was more at peace because he forgot. But I feel like that's why she's giving us this question. Is it
Yeah.
better? Isn't it? And same at well, let's spoil this. It's okay. People, you have to read this book, whatever we say today, because it's worth it. And it's just 200 pages. Jonas decides to leave the community at some point in the book. And let's just say that it doesn't go really well for him. And he's questioning his own choice of leaving, because he left because he knew the value of memories and feelings that they were not allowed to feel, and so on. But then he's starving, he's cold, he's on his own, and he's like, well, it was nice to be fed and to be with my family. And so, it's, which one do you want?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's it's again this discussion about change and what you know and living and deciding what you value is worth the sacrifice. I think, and it's interesting what you just explained about the author, because like I'm sure memories are so important because memories make you you. It's because of your memories you're the person you are today.
I know, I agree. Have you?
So yeah, it may be easier to forget grief or pain or loss, but it's because you experience grief and pain and loss, but you are the person you are today.
I know. Have you? When I was reading the book and this whole memory theme, I thought about this movie called Eternal Sunshine of the
Yeah.
Spotless Mind. I don't know if you watched it.
Yeah.
For people who haven't watched the movie, it's great. It's about this this couple, and she decides to break up with him. And in order not to feel the pain of the breakup, she uses a special service that exists to wipe all of her
Yeah.
memories of him. And it's really perfect with this theme of when you break up, when you have your heart is broken, then do you want to forget, just not to
Yeah.
feel? So maybe I didn't explain the movie that well, but Jim Carrey plays in this movie, and also Kate Winslet. So it's worth it.
Yeah. There's always this, when there's this sentence that when someone dies, it's the worst pain ever because your love for them doesn't have anywhere to go anymore.
Yeah.
And I think it's the perfect way to describe love and grief, because so many people say, oh, like if we had not met each other, hadn't known each other, I wouldn't experience this pain, which is the worst
Yeah.
pain you can experience. But no, because you had this relationship and you had this love, so it's beautiful.
Yeah, and I didn't mention it at the beginning, but this book is part of a quartet. So there are four books in the series, and we're excited. I mean, I'm excited about maybe reading the second one because, as I said at the beginning, we did not fully understand the ending of The
Okay,
Giver.
I have to admit, because we're talking about it, I thought he died at the end, but Mary told me he doesn't die.
Yeah, I did not interpret this as him dying, but who knows? I think two things that make me think that he's not dying is there's a second book. So I'm like, probably he
No,
didn't,
bad.
but who knows? Who knows? And the other thing is, I feel like if he wrote a story with hope, then that would be heartbreaking to have him die. But I feel like
I
you
agree.
read the ending in a second level, like, in because I read it as what it was written, like he goes and then he sees lights and houses and whatever. And I thought, okay, he literally sees, maybe another community or something like that. And you were more in the philosophy of it all, like, oh,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
image of him dying. So I guess there are two ways of reading this, but it's a good cliffhanger to read the second book.
yeah. Clearly.
To make sure that we understand. And talking about the fact that it was a series, it had a huge impact. As I said at the beginning, she won a prize, a medal for this book. She has sold 12 million copies, so quite a big deal. It has been translated in many languages, a lot of good reviews for the book. New York Times described it as a deeply humane fable of the dangers of forgetting. So, very famous book, even on Goodreads. I'm mentioning it because I feel like it's hard to get a good rating on Goodreads because there's so many people reviewing books, but it has a 4.1 average
Oh,
with
okay.
2 million ratings. So
Not surprised.
that's impressive because
No.
to get a 4 on Goodreads, it with so many ratings, that's a lot. And we mentioned the movie adaptation. It
Mm.
was released in 2014, and I'm impressed at the cast because we have Meryl Streep, we have Katie Holmes, Jeff Bridges, and Taylor Swift. Well,
Yeah, for 40 seconds, but she's in the
yeah,
movie, so I watched the movie. Of
Taylor
course.
is not the main character, but she liked the book, she recommended the book, and it makes sense that she's part of the movie adaptation. We haven't watched the movie, and I will just say that from what I've seen online, it hasn't received a lot of good reviews, but I'm still curious to see the movie. I watched the trailer and I do recognize the changes that they made. For example, Jonas, he's older in the movie than in the book. Like
But
the
actually, it made
actor.
sense because for me, the fact it was supposed to be 12 was
Yeah.
a little bit young to have this kind of observation
Yeah.
of the society and everything.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I'm excited to watch the movie just to see how they managed to adapt such a book because I don't
Yeah.
think it's a very easy book to adapt. Anyway, I think we can give a few recommendations maybe based on this book.
Yeah.
I already mentioned a movie that I thought about when I read this this book, but I also thought of another book, very famous one, Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, because it's a book on books being forbidden and banned and burned. We already talked about this book, I think, in our very first episode of Book Nook, and I think it's a good link to The Giver because of that. This question of everyone being the same, very hard rules on society, all of that, knowledge, emotion, all the themes in The Giver are in Fahrenheit 451, and probably it's a more adult version of a dystopia on these topics, whereas The Giver is for young adults. So yeah. So I'm just gonna stick with that recommendation. I don't know if you have some. I know that you told me that you thought about Divergent when
Yeah,
you read the book.
I thought about Divergent because it's almost the same. Like, it's a community where everyone is assigned to a specific caste.
Yeah.
And yeah, at one point she just goes elsewhere and find other communities. So it's clearly inspired from The Giver, I think. Another recommendation, Delirium by Lauren Oliver. I love the books. It's a series of books. And I think they tried to adapt it, but it was not adapted in the end. That's a pity because it was a great book. And it's a society, it's a book for teenagers too. And love is considered as a disease. So it's a bit like The Giver, actually, but with romance. You know,
Wait,
I
you
love
said love
romance.
is considered like a
Yeah.
disease? Wow. Okay.
But she
Tough.
falls in love anyway.
Because you cannot prevent people from loving one another.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're coming to the end, and we're gonna give you our final verdict.
Yeah.
What's your rating, Barbara?
Okay, so I love the story, but I she could have done better with the writing, I think. So I will say 3.5.
Okay, interesting because I was debating my rating. Should I give it a 3 or a 4? So it's interesting that you gave it a 3.5.
I knew it. I read your mind.
We're in agreement. I did like the story, and I think it's a great book club book because
Yeah.
I enjoyed our conversation today, but also other conversations that we had together on the book. And
Thank you, Mary. Thank you. I enjoyed the conversation. Yes, I hope so.
what I mean from that is if I had read the book on my own and not talked about it, it might not have had the same impact.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and I feel like some books are like that. Well, also, I finished it yesterday. So
Me
it's,
too.
it's a very recent
You can
read.
see how we prepared for this podcast.
Okay, seriously, if one day I manage to finish the book way in advance, I'm going to be so proud of myself because I feel like I always finish the book the day before. That's me. Anyway, so I think since on Goodreads I cannot give a half rating, I'm going to give it a 3 because I'm still skeptical when it comes to the writing. And I felt like I might have enjoyed it better if I were a teenager. But
But maybe when we have like the end of the story, the rating will change. Because I think to really grasp the story,
yeah,
you need more books. Because if you don't understand the end, like me, it's a bit of a, like, I really
yeah,
love the start. I love the question I was asking and everything. But the end left me like, okay, I don't understand. The guy dies. But no, he doesn't die. But it's a problem with the writing. Because if you don't understand the end, it's a problem.
that's a whole other topic of authors who, you know, give you very cryptic endings
Yeah.
because it's on purpose. That's a whole thing. But I'm still inclined to read the next book.
Me
And I
too.
think I will
Mm.
because it's probably 200 pages too. So it's a quick read. And I'm curious. Like, I
Yeah.
want to know what happens. I think my curiosity trumps the fact that I did not enjoy the writing as much as I could have. So I'm still going to read it. I'm giving it a 3. And I'm really happy that we read this book and have it here.
Much better than the book we were supposed to read.
If you guys listened to our previous episode, we were supposed to talk about legends and lattes. And a week ago, we decided to change our deep dive episode.
After 4 chapters. But that's great because we discovered one of Taylor Swift's favorite books. And it's a great book. So even if it's only a 3, read it anyway. Because it's great just to think about our society, think about interesting, important topics in life.
Yeah. Well, thanks for today's chat.
Yeah, you too. It was super interesting.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.
That's it for this chapter of Book Nook. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Book Nook the podcast for more bookish fun. And we'll see you next time. Until then, happy reading!